Let's also talk briefly about Tories telling the police, bring back stop and search. I still find it extraordinary, this whole idea that when the police do things wrong, we kind of blame the government as well as the police. But technically speaking, the government isn't supposed to tell the police about their actual, day-to-day policing, except we pay the police's wages. Of course it should be the government on behalf of us telling them what they're doing. Yeah. But we've got the Chris Philp, who's a minister I've got a lot of time for, actually. He talks a lot of common sense, I mean, a lot of the time, and he's the policing minister. He's basically saying police must go back using more stop and search to tackle knife crime rather than, he says, appease campaign groups who claim it's discriminatory.
Well, then I suppose you've got to juxtapose that with the police in this country and the Conservative politicians often referring to community tensions and how we have to talk to the community. No, the police are there to uphold the law. That's ultimately what it's nothing to do with what campaigners or communities or whoever feels about the situation. If you're carrying a knife and there's a reasonable chance that people who fit a certain demographic could be carrying a knife, you need to stop and search them. The problem with this is it's incredibly confrontational. It is very dangerous, and it requires police officers to have certain amounts of training, certain amount of physical heft and fitness. It's not actually a job.
Does it?
Yes, it does. I'm sorry, you cannot have two female police officers, cornering a couple of adolescent men on a street corner and trying to frisk them. It's just nonsensical. It's not going to work. Actually, you do need certain
I've heard from lots of male
background.
police officers, often female police officers are much better at diffusing these things. For me, one of the key issues is body cam. You don't. If your body cam ain't working, you don't get to do this. I want a full record for both sides. Apparently, when people are playing, when everything's filmed and everyone knows it's being filmed, police officers are more respectful. You don't get accusations of you were racist from the person being stop and search. Everyone is treated better. This doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be as confrontational as it has been. And I've seen
the sorts of people who are carrying knives will be confrontational.
But they're not. But we know
the problem.
When you look at stop and search, the vast majority of stops don't result in any criminal prosecution.
Which is not what I'm worried about.
No, because the vast majority of people who are stopped are not committing a crime. Now, you're wearing a nice suit and you're white and you're not getting stopped and searched.
Nothing to do with
I'm a
being
middle
white.
class.
Nothing to do with being white. If you're a black man walking down the street and you're wearing a suit, I guarantee you will not be stopped and searched. And this is something that is often said. No, this is often said.
That's not true.
I'm sorry.
No, that's not true, because I've done phone-ins before, and I've had a vicar who was black, and he was constantly searched. I know black men who because they drive a nice car, they are stopped and searched by the police in a way that someone who was white in exactly the same car, exactly the same clothes, would not be stopped.
A flash car like maybe a drug dealer might drive.
But they don't assume you're a drug dealer if you're white.
Were any of these people wearing suits? Did they look like they'd just come from working in estate agents? I'm prepared to bet they weren't.
No, I'm sorry, but I know lots of people who are well off who don't wear suits.
I'm a vicar, but I went out for a run and I was wearing a hoodie and I had my hood up.
No, a vicar in his dog collar. I was completely of your view until I did phone-ins on a station I used to work at, and I was amazed by the number of people who called in who talked about this. Middle class, middle-aged people being searched. At the end of the day, we need to talk about this. I completely get the demographics. I completely get the need to do this. I've got no issue with that. However, it needs to be done very respectfully, and it needs to be done on the basis that, in the same way as when you go through passport control at an airport, I don't like being treated as if I'm a common criminal by the passport people. I want to be treated as, good morning, welcome, thank you very much for coming through. Oh, now we have a problem with your passport. Fine, that's one thing. But treat people with respect. I think it would make it easier.
But they do that to everybody. That's what passport control does. That's how they treat everybody.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm sorry. I guarantee there might be the odd occasion here or there. I guarantee you, if you walk around dressed like you're going to work, the odds are actually the police are not going to...
Depends what your work is. Most people don't wear a suit to work. If you're working on a building site, you might be wearing a hoodie.
How many people who've got a hard hat and a toolbox also get stopped and searched? It's not a thing. I'm sorry, it's just not a thing.
Look, okay, I completely understand it. I'm not being woke on this. I'm just saying the vast majority of people who are searched, are not committing a crime. So you've got to accept that when you're a police officer searching people, you've got to accept, although there's someone might fit a demographic or be in an area where there's a high violent crime on the streets, and therefore you're searching them. Completely understandable. I understand. Even the mums of the teenage boys want this to happen. They know that's how they're going to keep their sons alive. They're the ones who are killing each other. However, you can't be going around as police officers policing a local community, whether black or white, Asian or whatever, by treating everybody as if they're a criminal, but particularly certain demographics. Because it's all very well to say, well, this saves lives, and it does, and I agree with it. But I'm not one of the people being stopped on the way to work every day.
Because people who fit your demographic.
I know, but nevertheless, if you're the vast majority of people who fit that demographic but are not carrying a knife and are not committing crime, it's gonna pee you off a few times.
I'm sorry, but I'd rather it did that rather than people being stabbed.
And I understand that, but you have to understand why people are angry about it. If you've never committed a crime in your life and you're stopped and searched 3 times a month, you're going to be annoyed about it.
Don't hang out on street corners. Don't wear a hood. Don't wear a mask. And I'm serious, actually.
I'm with you on
Dress like you're going to work. I don't care what your work is. Dress like you're a professional.
What if you're going to the pub?
What do you mean? What if you go to a pub?
I'd like to point out that I have never seen Benedict in anything other than
What's wrong with wearing a suit to go to the pub? People used to do that as day regular. It was the common thing as recently as the 70s and the 80s.
Can someone call in and back me up? I would love to hear from you, particularly if you live in an area where there's a lot of stop and search, particularly if you're the mum of maybe a son who gets stopped and searched. I'd like to hear, please shush you, just stuff your tie in your mouth.
No.
Give us a call. 0344 499 1000. We've gone off on a tangent. I want to ask you also about the NHS offering obese men £400 cash prizes to lose weight. We talked a lot about various different moves to try and help people lose weight. £200 a month fat jab, the Ozempic and similar. Yesterday we talked about that an awful lot on the show. A lot of people getting in touch about whether that was good value for NHS funding. This is a study presented at the European Congress on Obesity in Venice, and I suppose if you can get it, funded by the government. They recruited 585 men via GP surgery across Britain, and participants were set the challenge of losing and keeping off 10% of their body weight in a year. And they were promised a £400 cash prize if they achieved this, or smaller amounts of money if they lost less weight. On average, they lost 4.8% of their body weight. So, I mean, you're looking at people losing, you know, a very small amount if you're overweight. 27 of the men got the full £400. Now, what they did was they had other schemes where you basically got less money. Also, schemes where you didn't get any money at all, but you got lots of encouragement. And they found that offering them money helped more men lose weight. The thing about this is, though, they lost very little weight.
Yeah.
The question is also, do they keep it off?
Yes.
But also, I mean, again, if you're losing weight, you're eating less food, right? So haven't you got that extra 400 quid over the year anyway? Should we be offering people money to improve their own health?
I really do enjoy that. We're not going to offer you money, but we will offer you encouragement. What's that? You're not going to lose the weight. Oh, well, who could have seen that coming? I think it's one of those things where if they can keep it off, fine, because 400 quid in the short term offset against the potential health costs of being overweight long term is probably a saving. But that's the problem, isn't it? Are people actually going to keep it off? It's one of those things where, like, obviously you're going to be incentivized to get money, because we've been talking about unemployment earlier in the show. If you offer people more money, you're going to incentivise them to do a little bit more.
Shouldn't the incentive be to feel better, live longer, and look better?
A lot of people don't have that. They don't necessarily have the drive until it's too late.
But again, like, that's 400 quid of my money.
As opposed to tens of thousands to treat them when they're old and ailing, and actually it's weight-related.
I know, but that's the argument. But at this point, we'll just be paying people, you know, oh, it's 10 grand to cost the NHS if you have a heart attack. Well, let's give you 9 grand to lose weight because we're still making money.
I mean, I agree with you.
It would be cheaper for us if they just lost weight.
I agree with you, but people don't necessarily behave like that. You often do need to incentivise great swathes of the population. I think that this is actually potentially a very good thing. What you do is you bribe them effectively to go and lose weight. They then go to Lewin's, they buy a suit and they don't get stopped by the police, and society improves overnight. Everybody's thinner, they look better, the police are able to concentrate on other things.
I love the Benedict solution to all the woes in the world is if everyone just wore a suit all the time. Do you wear a suit in the bath?
Almost certainly, yes. We had an empire. When men wore suits as de rigueur, we had an empire. Everything was great. Lots of things.
Do you think we should men should be wearing hats as well?
I'm open to the idea. I don't think it has to be mandatory.
I see you in a trilby. I don't know what's happened to the show. It's all gone wrong. Should we take a call? Get some sense back onto the show. Been asking you about ministers set to ban schools from teaching gender ideology and issuing children under the age of 9 will not be given sex education lessons at all. Your thoughts on that? Well,